What's up, Grow and Glow Fit fam? Welcome back to a new video. What's up? I'm not gonna lie with y'all. To be honest, I just got home from a 5-hour road trip and I really don't want to do this today, but we have to because, if we don't meal prep for the week, then we're gonna just be grabbing whatever's in our fridge and we're not gonna be eating healthy and nutritious so that we can get that summer body yada yada. So we gotta do what we gotta do. That's what makes changes around here. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Pamela. This is the Grow and Glow Fit channel where we share meal prep ideas, workouts, and other health tips while on a budget. On this week's menu, we're going to be having sheet pan pancakes, and then for lunch, we're going to have a Creole inspired sheet pan mix with some veggies, shrimp, chicken, and sausage. Stick around because you'll definitely want to make that. But yeah, enough yapping. Let's go ahead and get right into the ingredients. So for our ingredients for the sheet pan pancakes, you're going to need the following. You're going to need 12 eggs. I'm using 7 whole eggs, and then I'm going to be using egg whites to substitute the rest of the eggs. You're going to need 3 cups of Greek yogurt. You're going to need some oat flour or all-purpose flour. I recommend using oat flour because it is healthier and slightly lower in calorie, but if you have all-purpose flour, you can use that as well. You're going to need some vanilla extract and some maple syrup. And then to top your pancakes off, this is totally optional, but I recommend it because it'll judge it up a little bit. And then you're gonna need some chocolate chips. I like this brand because it has no added sugar. And then we're gonna do some fresh blueberries. So let's go ahead and get into the prepping. Before we start mixing everything into our bowl, you're gonna wanna make sure to preheat your oven to 350 degrees so that way it can be ready when we are done mixing our ingredients. Also, shout out to my niece, Jackie. This is a recipe that she really loves. So if you wanna show Jackie some love, make sure to try this one out. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our eggs. So you're gonna wanna make sure to drop in your whole eggs first. 7. All right, we have our 12 eggs. I did 7 whole eggs, and then I did 4 egg whites. And then you're gonna need 3 cups of Greek yogurt. If you guys want to see the ingredients, it will be in the description down below. I'll also try to put the ingredients on the screen so that way you guys can have it while you're making your recipes. So 1, 2, and 3. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and stir it on up. I probably should have grabbed the bigger bowl. You're gonna wanna make sure to stir this until it's nice and well combined. 1 sec, let me transfer this to a bigger bowl. We're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. This is the brand that I'm using. Maple Grows Farms Organic 100% Pure Maple Syrup. And then we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And then mix that in. Okay, then we're gonna go in with 2 cups of oat flour. All right, 1 cup, 2 cups. I also forgot to mention this in the ingredient portion, but you're also going to need some baking powder, and we're going to do 2 tablespoons of baking powder. 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. And then we're going to make sure to mix that in until it's well combined. All right, we got everything mixed in, so this will be your consistency. There might be a couple clumps in there, but that's totally okay. Let's go ahead and get our sheet pan set up with some parchment paper. All right, I have my sheet pan with my parchment paper. Hopefully once I pour this in, it kind of sinks. So let's go ahead and add that in. And make sure to scoop everything out of your bowl. You're going to want to make sure to get every inch. All right, so this is what our sheet pan pancakes are going to look like once you pour it into your sheet pan. And then I'm going to go ahead and top it off. I'm going to do half blueberries and half with chocolate chips. So for these chocolate chips, it says 1 tablespoon is about 60 calories. As a serving size, I'm going to go ahead and measure that out. Okay, I'm actually going to do like a couple extra ones, maybe like a tablespoon and a half. Make sure it's nice and evenly spread out. And then we're gonna set this side up with some blueberries. Okay, and I'm gonna take about 3/4 cup of blueberries, and I'm just gonna add that in. And this is what your finished product should look like. Let's go ahead and toss this into our oven at 350 degrees for 35 to 45 minutes. Let's go. Okay, and this is the final product once your sheet pan pancakes come out of the oven. I'm gonna go ahead and divide this up into 8 servings and place them into our meal prep containers. Yum, look how delicious this looks. It's nice and thick and fluffy and moist. I can't wait to take a bite into it. Honestly, look at that. This is the chocolate chip version, And whenever you go to eat it, you can, you know, put a little bit of syrup on top and enjoy your pancake. Okay, and this is the blueberry version. As you can see, the blueberries kind of sunk into the pancake, which is exactly what we wanted. All right, and you're gonna just wanna make sure to let these cool before you put the lid on, just to help with condensation, and that way your pancakes won't be all soggy when you eat them in the morning. All right, and that's everything for our breakfast. I hope that you guys try out these sheet pan pancakes. They're super easy to make. Like I mentioned at the beginning of my video, I didn't want to make it, but honestly, it's just mixing the ingredients quickly in a bowl and then throwing it in the oven. So it's not too much work, and I'm already prepared for the week with my breakfast. So give this one a try. Let's get into lunch. So for lunch, you're going to need the following ingredients. You're going to need at least 1 pound or 16 ounces of chicken breast. I also bought some turkey smoked sausage. You can also do some chicken sausage if you like. I'm going to use some potatoes. I'm only going to use about 15 small red potatoes. You're going to grab some raw shrimp, peeled and deveined. Then you're going to need corn on the cob. I'm probably going to end up using 8, so I do have another bag of this. So I'm going to put 8 in total. You're going to need some cherry tomatoes, about 4 cups of cherry tomatoes. You're also going to need 2 red bell peppers, 2 green bell peppers, 2 zucchinis, 1 large yellow onion, 2 lemons for serving, and then our seasoning. So you're going to need some salt, some black pepper, some paprika, some garlic powder. And you know what I'm going to say? If you have fresh garlic, you can also include that. I don't have any still. I forgot to buy some. But if you have fresh garlic, you can use that. Some Creole seasoning, some ground cayenne pepper, red pepper, some dried thyme leaves, and then a little bit of Old Bay seasoning. So that's all you're going to need to get into lunch. So let's go ahead and start washing and chopping our vegetables. Before we start cutting up our vegetables, we're going to want to make sure to preheat our oven to 425. We're going to just start off by doing our peppers. You're going to want to make sure to decore them and then thinly slice them. So let's go ahead and chop these up. You're going to see it's only going to take me 1 second. All right, we got our peppers all nice and sliced. So we're going to go ahead and just set that aside so that we can do the same thing with our onion. All right, we got our big yellow onion. We're going to go ahead and peel it and then thinly slice it. Let's go. Okay, then we have our 2 cucumbers that we're going to want to make sure to cut into thick chunks. And as you can see, I'm keeping the chunks for my zucchini pretty thick. That way when they are cooking, they don't cook down to almost nothing. And then I'm just going to slice them in about halves, maybe into quarters. Okay. Our zucchini is ready to go onto our tray. So for our cherry tomatoes, we don't have to cut them. We are just going to go ahead and rinse them and then place them on the sheet pan. All right, we washed our tomatoes. Go ahead and put them on our pan. Once you rinse your potatoes and cut off any bad pieces that you might see, you're going to want to make sure to cut these into quarters. The smaller they are, the better. That way they cook faster. But this size will be ideal. You don't want them too small because then it will just turn into mush. But you don't want them too big because then you'll be waiting forever for your meal to finish. And if you have like a slightly bigger baby potato, you can, slice it smaller so you can get the appropriate size that you want. Once you get your potatoes down to bite-sized pieces, you're going to want to throw them onto the pan. I used about 13 small potatoes. All right, finally, we're going to take our turkey smoked sausage and we're going to slice this up and throw that on our pan with all our veggies. And then I'll show you the next step here. You're going to want to make sure to slice it kind of like at an angle, so that way you can get your slices looking kind of like this. All right, we got our turkey sausage all sliced up, so let's go ahead and throw this onto our pan. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create like a little seasoning mix that we're going to pour all over our vegetables and sausage that we just cut. So you're going to gather the seasonings that you saw in the ingredient portion. Boom. Whoa. All right, so I got all my seasonings here, and we're going to go ahead and just start dumping one bit at a time. So I will be showing the ingredients on the screen if you need to see, the measurements and whatnot. It's also going to be down in the description below. So if you get to a part where you don't see the ingredients, just know that it's always going to be in the description below. So make sure to check that out if you're watching. So you're going to start off with 2 teaspoons of Tony seasoning. And for some reason, this shit always makes me sneeze or cough. And then you're going to go in with 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. And then 2 teaspoons of paprika. This will help it give it color and a little bit of the smoky flavor. Then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper. And then you're going to do 2 teaspoons of dry thyme leaves. Then we're going to go in with a half a teaspoon of ground cayenne red pepper. And then we're going to go in with a half a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt. If you don't have Himalayan salt, you can also just use regular salt, but I recommend switching out your salt to pink Himalayan salt. It just has less sodium. All right, once you have all your seasonings in there, we're going to go ahead and just combine that together. And we're going to set aside about 4 teaspoons of this mixture. With the remaining of our seasoning mixture, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then we're going to stir this to combine. And you should get something that looks a little bit like this. And then we're going to set aside our seasoning mix until we need it. I went ahead and put our 8 pieces of corn on the cob in a bowl. We're going to add about a half a cup of water in here. And then we're going to cover it up with some plastic wrap and throw it into the microwave for about 2 to 3 minutes. If you are using fresh corn on the cob, you can skip this step. Okay, so this is what our baking sheet is looking like. I had to split mine up into 2 separate baking sheets because I don't have a really big one to put everything on. But as you can see, it looks all colorful and delicious already, and it smells amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and spray a little bit of our spray oil on top, and then we're gonna add our seasoning that we just mixed in our bowl to our pan and mix everything together so it's nice and coated with that seasoning mix. All right, once everything is nice and coated, it should look something like this. If you feel like you need to add a little bit more seasoning, I would recommend doing like a half a teaspoon at a time. But I would save that till after everything is kind of a little bit cooked through, and then that way you can taste it and see if it needs it. All right, so we got our corn added to our sheet pan. Honestly, I don't know how we're gonna fit anything else on this sheet pan, but we're gonna have to make it work because we still need to add our shrimp and our chicken on here. But now that we have our corn, you're gonna also want to make sure to get that nice and incorporated with all that seasoning that we mixed into our vegetables. Now that we have everything nice and evenly coated, we're gonna go ahead and throw these into the oven for about 10 minutes. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and just add a tablespoon of olive oil into our remainder of our seasoning. We're gonna drop that in. We're gonna mix this until well combined. And if it's too thick, you can always add a little bit of extra olive oil. We're gonna set that aside. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and start prepping our chicken and shrimp. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned and diced my chicken breast. I used about a pound, so 16 ounces, and we're gonna set this aside and get our shrimp prepared. All right, so I went ahead and removed all the tails, and I'm gonna go ahead and just throw my chicken breast that I already cut into the bowl with my shrimp. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our seasoning mix that we originally set aside. I'm also going to add a little bit of spray oil so that way it's easier to coat everything in the seasoning mix. So this is what your bowl should look like after you're done mixing it all up. And then we're gonna go ahead and toss this onto the pan that has all our veggies on. We're gonna wanna set this on top of the veggies and not mix it in. And this is what your sheet pan will look like once we add our chicken and shrimp on there. We're gonna go ahead and toss this back into the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes or until our vegetables are nice and tender and our chicken and shrimp is fully cooked through. So we'll check it at the 15-minute mark and then see if it needs some extra time. Okay, so I went ahead and removed my shrimp and my chicken from our pan so that way it doesn't get overcooked. The rest of the veggies are still cooking, especially my potatoes. They're really hard still. So I'm gonna leave this in the oven for another 10 minutes. If the potatoes are still hard once the 10 minutes are up, I'll leave the potatoes only left on the pan and just bake these for a little longer. All right, so I did go ahead and just plate my food into my meal prep containers. I had to do this off camera because I did have to cook some stuff for extra time. I cooked the shrimp and the chicken for about 18 minutes. And then I let my veggies with my sausage cook a little bit longer for about an extra 10 minutes. And then I went ahead and took all my veggies off and left only the sausage and the potatoes on. And then I went ahead and cooked my sausage for about an extra 5 minutes, removed that, and then I left my potatoes cooking. They're actually still cooking right now. I'm gonna leave those in for another 10 minutes. That's pretty much what our lunch is going to look like, just with an extra little bit of potato. Honestly, I cannot wait to dig in. It looks delicious, it smells delicious, and I know it's going to be nice and healthy. I also went ahead and poured whatever juices were left over on the sheet pan into the individual containers so that everything is nice and juicy when we warm it up the next day. So yeah, make sure to give this one a try and enjoy. And that brings this week's meal prep to a close. I hope that you guys try out this sheet pan and Creole inspired mix. My favorite this week was the Creole inspired mix. Honestly, it was a 10 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed every little piece of it. Super easy to make and packed with goodness. So one you for sure want to try. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and turn your post and notifications bell on so that you never miss a new recipe upload. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought, if you try out any of my recipes, or what you love to see. Make sure to stay tuned for next week's video. We're gonna have a delicious breakfast and lunch, so it's one that you're not gonna wanna miss. And yeah, so remember to continue to grow stronger, glow brighter, and stay fit. See you in the next one. Bye.